Hello and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars so you don't have to, from 2010 all the way to the present day, whenever that may be, using the Codemasters games. And we're into 2013. We're into the final throes of 2013, I'd say, round number 13 at Singapore, and the flyaway section of the season at the very tail end. It's a 19-round season, so there's just the 7 races, including this one, to go. And the mantra has been solid, if unspectacular, though a couple of the last few, I'd say dating back as far as Canada and Italy particularly, netting us decent results. Monza, surprisingly good. We were 12th. We possibly could have got points, made a silly mistake in the Lesmos, which probably cost us when it came to picking up our first point of the season, but we tried to roll the dice on strategy and it didn't quite work out. But we are driving well. We're keeping ourselves comfortably, for the most part, in front of Jules Bianchi and the Caterhams at the back. But, as I say, still desperately hunting for points. But we did have a little bit of championship movement last time out, thanks to that 12th place. We moved up to 17th. We're now ahead of one of the Toro Rossos of Jean-Eric Vergne, as well as Valtteri Bottas, Jules Bianchi, Charles Pic and Guido van der Garde. Daniel Ricciardo, the only other driver yet to score points, just in front of us in 16th. But at the top end of things, it's Sebastian Vettel leading the way. And he's started to pull out a bit of a gap to Lewis Hamilton, who's looking to defend his crown. But Lewis pulled it back in Italy. So those two fighting pretty tooth and nail. Alonso's in that battle. I'd say Rosberg on the fringes, but he's there. Massa, I think you can probably start to count out now. Mark Webber in 6th, definitely out of it in his final season in the sport. Perez in 7th, ahead of Raikkonen, Grosjean and Hulkenberg, who's been phenomenal this season. Level on points with 9th place Grosjean and 4 clear of Jenson Button in the McLaren. Gutierrez is 12th, just ahead of Paul di Resta and Pastor Maldonado and the other Force India of Adrian Sutil before us 0-point scorers. While in the Constructors, Mercedes lead the way by 45 points ahead of Red Bull, who are trying to reclaim their Constructors' title. Ferrari are 3rd, ahead of McLaren, who were the ones who took that Constructors' title in 2012 and are definitely not going to be defending it in 13. They're ahead of Lotus, comfortably ahead of Sauber, who are in a bubble of their own, just ahead of Force India and Williams. Then it's Toro Rosso. Us in P10, just ahead of Caterham. And Singapore is the site of what has been surprisingly great races, or ridiculous races, for the last 2 seasons. 3 if you include the qualifying back in 2010. We took pole position here. One of 2 pole positions in 2010. I can't even remember how we got pole in 2010 in the Virgin Racing here, but we managed it. 2011's qualifying wasn't particularly great, while we got into Q2 for just the one and only time in 2012. But the races have been a lot more spectacular for us. We took P10 in 2010, taking a point there. 4th place in the race in 2011, a race that had a fair few retirements. Not as many as 2012, though. There were 24 cars on the grid, 22 cars retired, and we finished a lap down on eventual winner Nico Rosberg, but were the only other car on track, so finished in 2nd place. I could do with another good drive. This is now the only circuit where we've scored points in every season so far. And as I say, Canada and Italy, saw us take our best results. And for both of those races, for long periods of time, we were in the points. It was damage in Canada that I think did us over, as we clipped for Jean-Eric Vergne or Romain Grosjean, one of the two, on the opening lap, just trying to avoid him as he bounced off the wall. While in Italy, it was, like I say, running wide at the first Lesmo kind of cost us a bit of time. We slipped out of the points there and couldn't regain that position back after our pit stops, even with an extended set or extended run on the tyres to try and overcut some people. Didn't really work for us. But this is now the last bastion of points in every single season. And I'm kind of hoping we have another good run of it here today. Because, quite frankly, we need to find points. And this was the site of our only points in 2011. And this has felt like 2011, but without quite so many mistakes or issues. As I say, solid if unspectacular has been the mantra throughout 2013. I'd like it to be solid and spectacular today, though. So we better get some practice in and see where the lay of the land is here at Singapore. While we do, we'll talk about the 2013 Singapore Grand Prix. The teams and drivers returned to Singapore for round 13 of the 2013 season, with Sebastian Vettel already on the cusp of a fourth Drivers' World title. The track was also revised, with the Singapore sling chicane being removed, and a change to a single apex left-hander. Practice saw times much quicker than the previous year, owing to the revisions and resurfacing around the track. The first session was an uneventful affair, Lewis Hamilton topping the timesheets ahead of Webber and Vettel. The second session saw a change in the order. Red Bull on top, with Vettel ahead of Webber and Rosberg. Only Pastor Maldonado would make contact with the wall, needing a front wing change. Vettel would continue at the top of the times in the final session, though the other teams narrowed the gap, with Grosjean and Rosberg completing the top three. Qualifying began with the traditional sight of Caterham and Marussia at the back of the grid, eliminated in Q1 as usual, joined by Maldonado and Paul di Resta, the Force India struggling around Marina Bay. The shocks would begin in Q2 though, with Kimi Räikkönen being eliminated while suffering a trapped nerve in his lower back. He'd be joined by Nico Hülkenberg, who had a DRS fault, Jean-Eric Vergne, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Adrian Sutil, while Esteban Gutierrez made Q3 for the first time in his Sauber. It would be Sebastian Vettel, who else, who would take pole position in his Red Bull, though it was far from certain as Q3 continued with first Webber, then Rosberg and then Grosjean setting purple sector times, though none could topple the German over a total lap. Rosberg would line up second, with Grosjean in third, while Webber, Hamilton, Massa, Alonso, Button, Ricciardo and Gutierrez completing the top 10. Rosberg would get the better start off the line, passing Vettel into turn 1, but the Mercedes would overshoot, running wide and letting the championship leader back through into the lead. Alonso would also get what is now, at this point in 2013, a customary rapid start, moving into third from 7th on the grid. It would be a Singapore Grand Prix though of little action for the first 25 laps, until Daniel Ricciardo found himself in the wall going under the grandstand, bringing out the safety car, a common sight at this race. At the restart, Vettel bolted and was untroubled by the chasing pack. Late on, Webber was chasing down Räikkönen for third until the Australian was asked to short shift, the problem eventually leading to a fiery retirement. Vettel would cruise to another victory, some half a minute ahead of Alonso with Räikkönen in third. Alonso picked up Mark Webber on the cooldown lap, both drivers getting a reprimand, and as it was Webber's third reprimand of the season, he received a 10-place grid drop for the next round. The top 10 would be completed by Rosberg, Hamilton, Massa, Button, Perez, Hülkenberg and Sutil in what would be a fairly uneventful Singapore Grand Prix.
We've been pushed down to second place.
Qualifying at Marina Bay has been tough in the last couple of seasons, though at least the races have so far been good to us. I really feel we're going to have to push hard to try and beat our closest rivals, just seemingly lacking grip around this technical night race. So it's going to be nigh on impossible to get out of Q1. I think we've got to aim for our customary 19th spot on the grid, but let's see if we can give ourselves a good springboard to keep up our points run at the Marina.
We don't think you'll have any trouble getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
In the garage then for qualifying at the Singapore Grand Prix, practice was not good, just seemed to keep spinning up the rears everywhere, never seemed to get any temperature in them. And the result from Italy has warped the team's expectations once again. They think we're going to get into Q2. We finished last in practice, quite some distance off. Just this season, don't seem to be able to get the run rate here. But we have seen that in practice so far this season, that we don't perform well and then we get out there in the race, or in qualifying, should I say, and we perform better than we expect. You may have also noticed, if you were watching practice intently, there was a little blue dot. We got to select a rival just before we moved into the session, after I'd completed my intro. So we once again, much like last season, picked the amiable Aussie Daniel Ricciardo as our rival for the rest of this season. Let's see if we can beat him in a best of 3. But first we've got to get out there and qualify well. So let's see what the Marina Bay street circuit has in store for us.
You're into third place.
And then our fastest lap in Q1 into turns 1, 2 and 3, looking fairly comfortable there, but we do run a little bit wide into 3, compromises our exit as we head down towards turn 4 and then onto the Raffles Boulevard. Turn 4 though, bounce over the curb a little bit, seemingly lacking traction. Already have dumped a fair amount of curves as we get the DRS open, and we're already slipping down the order pretty rapidly. Down at the end of this straight, we're actually 0.3 of a second down on our best time from the last lap, but nearly 0.3 up on Maldonado ahead. Into turn 8, very wide on entry, meaning wide on exit, really compromised our entire run through there. Turn 9, we get as close to the wall as we dare as we head down towards the revised Singapore sling. Avoid the wall just on the outside and fling the car round. It is still a bit of a sling as we get into 11 and 12. A little wary, losing a little bit of rear traction as we head over the Anderson Bridge. And round the hairpin for turn 13. Getting the car pointed straight, and there's another long blast down to turn 14, which I believe is called Celebration. We're about half a second up on our best time, but 2 seconds off the leaders, as you'd expect, as we get through 14 and then into 15, this section that doesn't exist in modern Formula 1 anymore, through the grandstand section. Having to wait to get on the power a lot, nearly lose the rear as we head under the grandstand, and we are really struggling to be confident on the power, which is costing us a huge amount of time. Take a huge jump over the curb as we head towards the final couple of corners, fling it round, and again just not confident enough on the power, cross the line, and that's as good as it gets.
You're starting way down the field tomorrow, 21st place.
At the end of qualifying in Q1, we finish 21st. We start only ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne, who never got a decent lap on the board in the end. We finish behind Bianchi, Peak and Van der Garde and Romain Grosjean, who drops out with us in Q1. Don't know what it is. This year, seemingly, don't have any pace whatsoever. Just slippy everywhere. There's no grip. Rear end is just not settling down. Hopefully that'll change in the race, but it's going to be a long way back from 21st to continue the points run here in Singapore. Let's hope, as we cross to the race, that it isn't the race where that run comes to an end. In the garage then for the Singapore Grand Prix of 2013, 21st place on the grid. Just qualifying wasn't very good. Just seemed to lack grip everywhere around this circuit, which meant that we also really lacked pace. So the points run at Singapore may come to an end this season, but let's talk grid before we talk race. Sebastian Vettel took pole position ahead of Nico Rosberg. Lewis Hamilton in third, with Fernando Alonso in fourth, the four fighting for the championship, top four in the race. Webber fifth ahead of Jenson Button, Felipe Massa, Raikkonen, Perez and Hulkenberg once again in the top 10 in the Sauber. Paul di Resta's 11th ahead of Esteban Gutierrez. Maldonado 13th ahead of his teammate Bottas, and it's Sutil and Ricciardo our rival in 16th. Grosjean dropped out in Q1 with Van der Garde, Peak, Bianchi, myself and Vergne, who never really got a decent lap in. And as I said, the points run may very well come to an end here. But strange things can happen in Singapore.
and they often do. Doesn't look like we've got any chance of rain here, which has helped us in the last couple of years, for sure. But I don't want to go out with a whimper in terms of scoring points in Singapore in every season. I'm going to go out swinging, I think. It's the only way really to beat it. It'd be nice also to beat Daniel Ricciardo and get that off to a good start before we had to, I think it's Korea and Japan the next two, so circuits I'm not particularly great around. At least we can be on the front foot to try and maybe beat him in our rivalry this season, unlike last year. But as I said, I can't sit here and say, well, let's just go out to aim to finish lower mid-pack. There is a run on the line, and this is the last circuit that holds some kind of run. It was always out of Q1 and into Q3 in both Belgium and Italy. They fell by the wayside last season. It's points here in Singapore, which is even bigger a deal. So I think we've got to aim for 10th. I will quite happily take a solitary point here, and a solitary point all season if we have to, just to say that we're not getting a 0-point score. And this is the circuit that's done us favours so far. So fingers crossed, something can come of it here. But let's get to the grid for the 2013 Singapore Grand Prix. Vettel and Rosberg front row. See Hamilton, Alonso there. There's Jules. Verne behind him. There's us next to him. Ricciardo up. You can just about see him on the left there, I think, in front of the caterhams.
We're below where we wanted to be on the grid, so try your best to make up a few places in the race.
Engineer Andy sounding tired of the poor qualifying, but away we go as the fifth red light extinguishes, and as usual, the start not great as we struggle off the line, but everybody's going to concertina up into turn one. Pick the inside there. Didn't really work for us. We are still last. We tapped the back of Bianchi's car. Gained one place back. We're back to where we started as we go past Peak, but then it's dive up the inside here. Have to take to the runoff as we've got cars in the wall. Was that Ricciardo? I think it might have been. Gutierrez was the other one. Wasn't Ricciardo, but we get up the inside of the Australian, and then Grosjean has to get out of our way. He's off. Hulkenberg being held up by Sutil. Must have been a Red Bull then. I'd assume that was Mark Webber as we bounce off the curb and nearly spin the car, but we stay ahead of Grosjean with P12. We've got that's a slow-moving Perez and Hulkenberg. Again, having to take slightly avoiding action. But there's P10. We've got to try and hold it for the rest of this race, which is going to be a big task, but we're where we want to be. Wouldn't shock me if we lose somebody after this lap with cars bouncing off the walls, the likes of Gutierrez. I think it's got to have been Mark Webber in the Red Bull. Okay, Rosberg's leading this race. It'd be bigger news if it was Vettel. Grosjean's just jumped Perez and Hulkenberg, who were going side by side down the start-finish straight. Adrian Sutil getting away from us. The top pack has already split into a couple of smaller clusters, and we're kind of leading everybody else. Wide through the final corner, and Grosjean tapped the back of us, but we stay ahead of the Frenchman. Perez, I think, has probably come through there. He has. There'll be a McLaren behind us. I'm pretty sure I saw the Red Bull moving through there as well. fought with Grosjean a few times this season. Jenson Button as well. Less so Sergio Perez. I feel the McLaren should have the beat in the Marussia, but we dump all of our cars to stay in front of the Mexican. Daniel Ricciardo behind us. He's just jumped Grosjean and Perez. So my personal rival is now the car right behind us. There's acres of time to the cars in front, but I don't really mind. I'm in this sort of position before a couple of times this season, and we've either lost time in the pits or cost ourselves time through mistakes. So I'm just trying to drive carefully and also maybe try and hold on to the tyres a little bit. Does mean I'm not necessarily going fast. And gets a better run out the last corner. Ricciardo right behind him as well. Don't forget, me and Vern were 21st and 22nd on the grid. And falls behind his teammate again though, and I think the Lotus of Romain Grosjean too. Which one of the Toro Rossos is going to be coming in with us? Cars in up ahead. A couple obviously carrying on while their teammates are coming in this lap. Ricardo's the one that carries on. Perez carries on as well. Massa now leads, which is just that Alonso's been in. Bottas stays out.
Complete, go now.
Back out ahead of Vern.
The track is clear, track is clear.
Very careful getting out of the pits here. So you don't cross the white line, so we manage that.
You're on the prime tyres, only one stop to go.
Alright, they're all in the pits. Up ahead. Hopefully none of them are leaving now. I think they might be.
He's less than a second behind and will
There's Ricciardo. No, he's at the front. There's Ricciardo. He has managed to jump us. Somebody else has as well, because we're down to 12th. DRS. Dumping our cars. I don't know if we're going to get close enough to Ricciardo here, you know. Like crazy to try and catch up to Ricciardo, but he has managed to jump us. Depending on who else is in front of him, I don't recall seeing anybody else coming out of the pits in front of him. Whether somebody's gone long further back, that could mean that he takes a point, which would be a terrible start to proceedings against him. And would also be terrible for our championship. Our first retirement in this one. It looks like it's somebody behind us. Still P12. The car in front of Daniel Ricciardo is Esteban Gutierrez, who started on the prime and is just going long now as Grosjean attempts around the outside. We hold off the Lotus, but we're losing Ricciardo, so he's currently, possibly, going to take a point in this race. Vern on the attack, we'll hold him to the outside now as well. Very deep through there. He'll get the jump on us. We're going to dive it back up the inside. Through 8, it cuts across us. And we're going to round the outside at 9. Pulls Perez and Grosjean through as well.
That's 8 places up from our race prediction. Great job. Keep it up.
Nico Hulkenberg in the Sauber that's out of this one.
We think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
We're already struggling on this tyre though. Gutierrez is in now, I think. May not even get back past the Mexican here. I think we're gonna.
The guys have run the numbers.
Well, just about.
Pitting within the next 3 laps.
Slow off for turn 9 now, and here comes the Lotus. Around the outside of the Singapore Sling, and we keep 11th place. He's going to take his one retirement up front, but I feel like I'm really damaging these tyres, and they've got a bit of time yet to go. Looks to the outside at 14, then the inside. Keeping behind us. Eyes are getting worn. Rear is just slipping everywhere. I can't pit too much earlier than these guys, else it's going to cost me big as Perez, as I think about it, into the Singapore Sling. And we do cut that corner in an attempt to just save ourselves, I guess. A pipe dream unless somebody up ahead drops out. Leaders still a bit too far away to be thinking about getting lapped. Ricciardo is a full pit stop ahead of us as we bounce off the wall. At least it was with the wheel and not the wing. As Perez has a look, we really are struggling on these tyres now. Gutierrez on the option tyre, obviously I would say slightly off plan to the rest of us, but that should bring him back into line with us, I think.
The car behind has minor front wing damage.
We're tiptoeing our way through corners at the moment. Was somebody behind us we lost out of this race? It was Romain Grosjean. We're down to 19 again. I assume somebody behind us. Where they're queuing up behind me and I'm being super slow. I wonder if it's Valtteri Bottas, because I can't see the Williams back there.
Stopping this lap.
We bounce off the curb there and it spears us across turn 3. Insta-kill curb nearly doing its job. Just got to get it round this lap. Whereas Gutierrez is going to take a go. World's widest Marussia on Raffles Boulevard. Oh, the rear is all over the show. I have no grip whatsoever. Make it in on our target lap. Gutierrez is in as well. Whole crew there waiting for Webber. I just seen Perez and one of the Williams guys as well. And the guard in 2. Be careful on pit exit. We come to a stop, only down to 13th though.
You have no more scheduled pit stops, so look after your tyres.
Bianchi and Peak were the only ones that jumped us. Badicard jumped everybody behind, so he might act as a bit of a rolling roadblock for me as well. At least for a moment. A leader jumped us there. I think it was Nico Rosberg. Valtteri Bottas was indeed the last retirement from this race. I assume another driver caught out by me being so slow. Yankee in. I assume Pika stayed out then. At least for now.
You need to increase the gap. You're within 1 second of the car behind. He will use
Mark
the
Webber
RS.
on us. The Red Bull, I don't think it's going to
Looks
be
like Caterham are
easy
getting
to
ready
hold
to
back.
receive someone in the pits. We think it'll be Pick. He should be in within the next few laps. You need to let the car behind you past. He's not racing you for position.
Fernando Alonso, so we'll go to the inside off turn 9 and let the Ferrari through. Sebastian Vettel immediately behind him as well. Wasn't sure if it was Vettel or Webber, so we just dive off the circuit to let the German through. It cost us time to Charles Peak, but still yet to pit, I think, Peak. And Alonso gaining more points on Hamilton here.
Blue flag conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing him.
It looks like Kimi Raikkonen's between them. Move to the inside to let Raikkonen through. And we just about get back in front of Mark Webber. And then we ain't break ourselves into turn 1. Have to cut across there. Charles Peak due to pit in again. I assume he is. He's just on a slightly off strategy
We
to
think
us.
that Pick is due to pit soon. He should be pitting within the next 3 laps.
Most of engineer Andy heard me.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
It was Hamilton.
You have a 2-second gap to the car behind. We need to keep it clean so he doesn't get a chance to overtake.
Keep well out of Massa's way. Mark Webber's right there
Good
as
job, back
well.
up to speed now. Blue flag, no
Just
longer
about hold
applied.
off the Red Bull. As Webber puts it into a wall trying to get by. As we're trying to hold off our 2010 champion in this series. We run a bit wide, take a bit of front wing. We are now down to
Damage the
18.
front wing. It's only minor, so stay out. Keep to the original pit strategy.
And I'd assume it's going to be somebody behind us that we've lost. Don't think my luck is quite that good, although Alonso's now leading. Have we lost Nico Rosberg from this race, or is he pitted? Massive news, we have lost Nico Rosberg from this race. Which means that as and when Charles Peak pits, we'll inherit P10. So this is now a battle for the points. Sure, Ricciardo will beat us, but if I pick up a point, I'm not going to care. Realistically, need to cater him to pit. He's lost a lot of time as he's been lapped. Don't think I'm fast enough to catch the Caterham. It will be very depressing if he doesn't need to pit.
You need to let the car behind you past. He's not racing you for position.
The McLaren are Jenson Button behind us. Get to the inside of the start-finish straight. Through goes
Our data's showing
the
that
2009
the car
champion.
ahead is likely to be running in
There we are,
conservation
P11,
mode. His
past
time will be
Rosberg.
slightly slower than normal.
So Charles Peak at the moment is in the points. Keep being told that he does need to pit. We're only a few laps away from the end of this one. As we get DRS off button. So that's going to help us defend from Gutierrez. So having just checked Race Director, Charles Peak has pitted the same number of times as everybody else, which is a worry, because that would suggest that he doesn't actually need to pit in. And that he will take P10 and Caterham will take a point and we won't. Not quick enough to catch him at the moment. There is a car in the pits. Is it Charles Peak? Yes, it is. Into P10 we go. I'd be worried for a minute, not going to lie. We are now, though, P10. Ricardo ahead of us, P9, way up the road. We've got Mark Webber, Sergio Perez, Esteban Gutierrez, all on our tails. Perez at the moment attacking. Just got to hold out for a few more laps. We are a lap down as well. We're a bit wide out of the final corner. They're almost 4 wide behind us. Gutierrez now is going to be on the attack. The Sauber still faster than we are. As we get the power, maybe a touch too early. Got to watch those rears. Everybody else has fallen off the back of us. They're all getting lapped by whoever's in, I guess P8, maybe P7. Didn't really see where Button was. Was he 6th? Either way, I'll leave us with just Gutierrez for a minute. And they'll all catch back up as we're getting lapped. Ricardo in 9th on the back of this queue. Might catch up enough in the final lap to force them all to slow down, which would be really helpful. In space to let them through to not be under attack into the braking zone after the DRS, as Maldonado goes past Gutierrez, taking advantage of the slowing down to let De Resta through, who's in 7th, which would suggest that Adrian Sutil is in 8th. Flags waving anyway, because De Resta will be in that gaggle of cars too. As we begin our final lap of this Singapore Grand Prix, we are right on the cusp of taking our first point of the season. End up being our only point as we run wide through 3. The tension is real as Maldonado is going to have DRS down here to attack. Can we keep the Williams behind us? To the outside, there is a bit of contact. Not much though, I don't think. Jean-Eric Verne behind him, and we are really struggling on tyres now. Maldonado though backs off to let De Resta through. Fernando Alonso takes the victory. And wait for the straight after the Anderson Bridge to let De Resta through. Verne's gone past Maldonado. De Resta, sorry, it was Adrian Sutil. We lose the rear. Somehow hold on to P10. We're really struggling now. There's a ruined. Ricardo's going to be in the gaggle of cars behind us. I think Verne's just... Maldonado, sorry, has just pushed us along. And we hold him off through the final corner. He's looking everywhere. We'll cross the line, P10.
result. A solid points finish.
What a result. We finished P10. First of those lapped, but way off the back of anybody else. Just beating out Maldonado, Verne, Perez and Gutierrez. I wouldn't be surprised if Peak was in there as well. In fact, I think everybody from P9, who was behind us, to the back of the field, I think we're in that gaggle of cars behind us. Fernando Alonso took the victory up ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and Lewis Hamilton took third in the end, beating Kimi Raikkonen, which will mean that he doesn't lose quite as much ground on the two people he's fighting. Raikkonen was fourth, had a Massa, Button, De Resta, Sutil, Ricciardo. Our rival beats us and claims 2 points, his first 2 points of the season. But we take our first point in P10 and we continue the run in Singapore. 4 seasons, 4 points finishes. Pastor Maldonado, Verne, Esteban Gutierrez, Sergio Perez, Charles Pic, Mark Webber in behind us as well, Van der Gaard, Bianchi. And then those that didn't finish, Rosberg, Bottas, Grosjean and Nico Hulkenberg. And what does that do? For the stand-ins, Sebastian Vettel leads Fernando Alonso now by 17 points. He's a point ahead of Lewis Hamilton. DNF for Nico Rosberg means that he slips to 69 points, nice behind Sebastian Vettel. Mark Webber drops out of the top 5. Massa jumps him after Webber finished down behind us. Perez moves up to 7th, or stays 7th, sorry, just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. There's Button, Grosjean, De Resta moves in. De Resta's 12th. Nico Hulkenberg slips out of the top 10. I think Raikkonen is the one that's catapulted his way up with that result. Then De Resta in 12th, Sutil, Gutierrez, Ricciardo 15th, 1 point ahead of us, but level on points with Maldonado. We stay 17th, thanks to other people's point scores, but we now have a point on the board. We're ahead of Verne, Bottas, Bianchi, jumps both Caterhams, Peak and Van der Gaard at the back. That means in the Constructors, Mercedes leading the way by 31 points ahead of Ferrari now, who are just 11 ahead of Red Bull. McLaren in 4th place, just ahead of Lotus. Sauber remains 6th. Force India make it into double figures in 7th. And then Toro Rosso and Williams level on points 8th and 9th. We remain 10th in the Constructors, but we are 1 point ahead of Caterham. And Singapore delivered. The tyres were awful. The grip levels were terrible. We had to defend for our lives for pretty much all of that race. We were in P10 before the first stops. We lost out to Ricciardo. For a brief period, I thought we were going to lose a point to Charles Pic after Rosberg's retirement. I think people retiring while lapping the group of cars I was leading, where everybody was just struggling to find a way past me because I was very, very slow. Worked out in the end, though. We took our first point of the season here in Singapore. So it was 10th with Virgin Racing in 2010, 10th for Marussia in 2013, and then Team Lotus with that 4th place finish and HRT with that 2nd last season. But what a race. I need a breather. That was a tense one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It was slight torture near the end for me. But like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. You know the drill by now. Thank you so much for watching. A point on the board. Yes. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.